welcome to another one of my race day experiences, and today I ran the Big Half in London. This is one of my favorite races of the calendar for so many reasons. One of the biggest being the opportunity to run through Tower Bridge, which is always a special feeling. The other main reason is the Cutty Sark finish, which is of course in Greenwich, and that's the borough where my parents live, and as a teenager I had some really great times around here. And to top it all off, the medal and the t-shirt at the end is always pretty cool, and they make an effort with the design. This year the medal and the t-shirt were designed by Astra Club, and I thought they did a terrific job with it. So, with the Chicago Marathon now only 5 weeks away and the New York Marathon 4 weeks after that, I didn't think today was the day to race really hard. The plan was to run at marathon pace, around 8 minutes 30 seconds per mile, which is roughly a 3 hour 43 minute marathon or a 1 hour 51 minute half. The primary goal was to make sure I took the gels, the salt tablets, and experiment with, walking through the aid stations. And obviously I'm doing a voiceover for this video instead of talking to the camera like in my previous videos, which is another thing that I experimented with today just to see what the final end product would look like. So shortly after I started my race, the race leaders went past us, including Sir Mo Farah, and it was of course his last race today. It's a blink and you'll miss it type of situation, so pay close attention. Here they are, passing us in the other lane right about now. I started the race mainly on feel, and once I reached mile 1, I realized I'd forgotten to change the watch from kilometers to miles. When I do park runs and 5Ks, I use kilometers, but for halves and marathons I prefer miles. And Saturday was parkrun day, and I did a parkrun yesterday and forgot to change back to miles for this race. So stupidly I lapped my watch manually at mile 1, which is about 1.6 kilometers, but my watch then rounded that up to 2 kilometers, and then that threw off my average pace, and splits, predictions, everything was off. Lesson learned for Chicago, right? But the timer at least was correct, so I knew that for that first mile I'd run 8 minutes 40 seconds. Shortly after mile 1 is my least favorite part of the course, the Limehouse Link Tunnel of Doom, which gets really hot even on cool days, and today it was particularly vile. I also don't like the banked road here, which is not very kind on the ankles, especially with the super shoes. But there is of course light at the end of the tunnel, and we escaped into Canary Wharf soon enough. But only after I retrieved a gel that fell out of my flip belt. At mile 3, despite my previous blunder of making my watch think it was 2 kilometers at mile 1, it had somehow kind of recovered. At mile 3 it was displaying 5.1 kilometers, which is loosely accurate and predicting a 1 hour 49 minute finish. I took that with a pinch of salt and carried on to 5 kilometers, where I could finally lap the watch with confidence to tell it that we were definitely at 5k now. At 5 miles I was settling in very well, comfortable in my pace, all the mass was now sorted, I had my first planned walk break, I had the gel, salt tablet, and prediction was at 1 hour 52 minutes, which was right on target. Here you also loop back towards the start area, and in the other lane we had runners from the later waves. This is basically the same point where I saw the elites zoom past us earlier. Around this time I was really enjoying the race. Obviously not racing hard meant I felt fresh, I had some nice music playing, and I was making most of what the course had to offer. Mile 6 in this race is terrible because of these cobbled roads. Super shoes are unstable at the best of times, and I really didn't feel confident in my footing around here. I went on the pavement when I found a gap in the barricades, but promptly got told off by one of the marshals, so I had to go back to the cobbled path again. At the halfway point, I'd run for about 56 minutes 30 seconds, and holding that pace would see me come in at around 1 hour 53 minutes. Into mile 7, which takes you to Tower Bridge, and it always feels amazing to run around here. Granted, it's not as spine-tingling as it is on London Marathon Day, but still pretty cool that probably London's most iconic landmark is completely closed off for just us runners and distinctly average ones such as me. And of course there's also the shot in the backdrop, which just adds to the view here. At mile 8 I was still feeling good, so I decided to push it just a tad. Of course, if this was a marathon, I would not be pushing here at all, because that's one of the very common rookie mistakes to make as in a marathon, when you feel good at mile 8 and you decided to push, and then you end up feeling dead by mile 20. But of course, as this is just a half, I was now feeling pretty good and only 6 miles from the finish, so I thought, why not? Here I'm being overtaken by a runner wearing a Hitchin Hares vest. So until very recently I was living in Hitchin, and I kind of toyed with the idea of joining the Hares, but with my 10-hour work days I didn't think I would be attending that many sessions, especially on weekdays, so in the end I decided not to. I was able to sustain my new slightly increased pace from miles 9 to 11, but I then realized that I'd neglected to lap my watch at the kilometer checkpoints, so the predictions had gone off again and the distance was again off. So I decided the best thing to do was just run on feel. The crowds were sporadic around here, which is one of the criticisms that people have of this race, but still there were some small enthusiastic pockets quite regularly, and the atmosphere was still decent. And on this hot day, this shower from the Lewisham Fire Brigade, I think it was, or the Deptford Fire Brigade, it was beautifully refreshing. At least at first it seemed like a great idea, but then obviously I got water all over my sunglasses, the GoPro, and more annoyingly my vest was soaking wet, and it started clinging to my chest. After Tower Bridge, my favorite part of this course is the finish. But this year it was a little bit... The crowd had gathered, but it looked like many were just saving their voices for their own loved ones. It wasn't quite the roaring finish that I'd experienced last year. My mum and dad were in the crowd somewhere, and I was looking for them at this point. But the crowd was actually so quiet that I actually heard my mum calling me out. And after seeing them, I kind of sprinted to the finish, and I came in at 1 hour 50 minutes and 47 seconds, which I was quite happy with. If I manage to hold that pace over 26.2 miles, that will give me a 3 hour 42 minute marathon, which would be 3 minutes better than what I'm hoping to run in Chicago. So I got my medal and headed towards the bag collection area. Again, some people complain that the collection area is way too far after the finish, but this forced walk to collect your bag and the t-shirt is actually a really good cool down and a great way to make sure that you don't seize up after the race. So all in all, a really good race for me to figure out what works and what I needed to change. As ever, I really enjoyed the big half, and see you all in Chicago.